Hey there, you are watching the Jessa Channel on YouTube. I'm Jessa, and today I am here with a new episode of Steve Jackson's Sorcery. This is Sorcery 3, and we have been enjoying this immensely. This is a narrative-focused kind of build-your-own-adventure game with this amazing map. Oh, look at that, I didn't see that before. The map is like floating. And I imagine that these are like clouds, shadows of clouds. But yeah, wow, that's gorgeous. The map is gorgeous. What the map is floating on is gorgeous. But anyway, yeah, we are here. And so let's dive back into the story. The stars turn in the sky overhead. Taking the pole as your guide, you make your way north along the blasted road. Before you, the backlands stretch away to a dim horizon. How can you hope to locate the Seven Serpents in such a wilderness? My heroine is not in the slightest bit worried. She says my spirit will aid me. I think we're going to learn about this now. We can sense our spirit guide walking beside us. Right now it takes the form of the horse, but this will change as you change. In the temple, they taught you that a prayer to your spirit could heal you, even save you from death. But the spirits are not generous and decline to help often. You can ask for a spirit's aid using the pray button. So there's the pray button is now activated. So we're going to move along. So far, the story has been, well, not linear, but our path has been linear. But if I understand the way this game works, we're going to have some choices coming up, which will allow us to choose to go one way or the other. And that's when things get interesting. Well, it's already interesting. After about half an hour, you see a deep black line across the earth up ahead. Catch your step just in time. You are one pace away from the edge of a sheer cliff. A few loose stones disappear over the edge and clatter away into the dark. Well, we could look for a way down. Let's see if something becomes obvious. You can pace along the line of the cliff in both directions, looking for a path down, but make out nothing. Perhaps if you go closer, you'll be able to feel your way, or perhaps you would do better to camp here and wait for daylight. There are also spells that might help me here. So, because the Seven Serpents now know that we are about our quest and will be attempting to waylay us, is from my understanding. I love the music here. I'm wondering if there's a spell that will give us a little bit of light. I'm wishing that there was a way to get this spell book on my phone, for example, or on my Android phone, so I could look up the spells, excuse me, without having to go into this. We could do a how spell here to see if a route is present. We could try that. Yeah, it doesn't look like there's a simple light spell that I can see, that we know of at least. Or just light enough to act as a torch, but we don't have a sun jewel yet. Okay, well, let's toss a stone over the edge, just to see. From across the plain, you hear this distant sound of flapping wings. More nighthawks? It falls in total silence, never seems to land. Is this cliff bottomless, or is there simply soft vegetation below? We look back across the dark plains, see flashing claws and talons ripping against the stars. The birds are screaming and wheeling, breaking formation. Oh no! A figure moves in the darkness. Beneath. Let's see if that figure is going to harm us in any way. You recognize the figure, you cannot place her. Oh. We could watch further. What follows is a rage of feathers, birds locked in combat. The whole scene is gone. The plains and skies are empty once more. There is something very strange about this place. The wind skims over the stones by the edge of the cliff, rolling them like dice. Well, since we have no light, peering over the edge would do little good. It's very clear that in our current situation, it's very dark. So I think our only really smart thing to do here is to rest until daylight. We need to eat once a day to avoid hunger, but out here food will be hard to come by, so we're going to need to find the hermit and see if we can't get food from him, because we rushed out into this. The very first choice we had was to prepare or to rush out, and we rushed out, and now we have to pay for it when they have 2 rations. The hour is late enough. You will rest here, though there is no shelter, and continue in the light. We lay our pack down and we settle despite the cold. Let's open up our pack and see what there is to eat. We take a quantity of cheese and bread and feel much better for it. Then you close your eyes and let your tiredness overtake you. The silence is loud in your ears. Slowly you are understanding the true loneliness of this place. You long for human company, but there is no one here, and so we sleep. The long night is filled with visions. A boy sits on a throne of skulls and swords, wearing a crown carved from solid bone. He seems not to notice you, but plays with carved model figurines of goblins, trolls, and demons, playing at a war, though he looks bored by it. And even while you sleep, you know the serpents are moving towards Mampang, which is where we need to head, and every day you spend out here is a day in which your journey might be discovered. That brings us to the edge of the cliff and the end of day 1. During the past day, we changed to using the broadsword +1, and I don't know if that means +1 stamina. Not sure. Used 1 provision and found 2 new clues. Cool. At the end of each day, we get a kind of review. That's neat. One of the things I'd love to know if this game does, I've never read anywhere that it does, but it would be amazing if at the end of the game, the game would offer you a PDF file that had this sort of background, this lovely textured background and the same look of the text. And the PDF was somehow written as you played, so you could go back and read your story. That would be amazing. I don't think the game does that, though, but if you know different, let me know. Morning brings cold, clear light. You wake, finding yourself lying all but on the edge of the great cliff. Uh-oh, one more toss and turn and we would have been, of a great cliff that plunges to a rocky floor below, so we can see now. Good thing you did not roll in the night. Let's look over the cliff edge. You approach the cliff edge and peer over. The drop is considerable, and the view beyond stretches for miles. Leading away to the left is what appears to be a carved suitcase of rough stone blocks. In the far distance, birds wheel and turn above the landscape ahead. Let's look at the view. You stare out across the plains. The featureless dust resolves itself into low, rocky outcrops and gullies. The landscape below is not as featureless as perhaps you first thought. And while we stand out here looking at the plains, I want to mention something that I intended to mention at the beginning of the episode, but I forgot. So I will mention it now. And that is that my friend and fellow YouTuber, Gameplay Jenny, is also going to be playing the Sorcery game, and that series should have started by the time this episode goes up. And she and I have come up with a cute little bet on whose character is going to die horribly first. So, she thinks it's going to be her character. I think it's going to be mine. We both have confidence in our ability to lead. as you can see. So, if you would like to see this sorcery game played out by another player where the story will be very different, the way she plays it will be very different, the choices that she makes. And so you're going to get an entirely different playthrough and see how unique this game is. So I invite you to head on over to Gameplay Jenny's channel, Gameplay Jenny on YouTube. I'll also put a link in the description, and tell her I sent you, and we'll see who dies horribly first. Okay, Jenny? The bet is on. And it looks like I might beat you just in this episode because I'm standing at the top of this cliff and no way to get down. And yeah, okay. Let's look at the mountains. So we stare across the plains. The featureless dust resolves itself into low rocky outcrops and gullies. The landscape below is not as featureless as we once thought, but beyond the plains, a line of low mountains rises. The Badu Bak Ridge. A second, higher range is visible beyond, the horns of Ilk Lala. Their summits must be subject to wild winds, as from here it seems that snow covers them one minute, and yet they are barren rock the next. Occasionally, I need to mute the mic in order to cough because I'm still recovering. Oh, day 20 of the bronchial infection. So let's look at the plain. Near to hand, you see a spire of rock, rising proud like a stupa. But through the mist, it seems sometimes that it has two prongs and sometimes only one. Interesting, a spire of rock. Now let's look down at the staircase. You turn your attention to the steps down the cliffside. They are carved from the living rock, and their surfaces, perhaps once smooth, are now warped and drilled with holes from the rain. But they lead downwards all the same. How did anyone carve such a slope? How did they stand on to sculpt? What did they stand on to sculpt the stones so high up in the air? The top step is covered with a curious, bright yellow moss. Sunlight sparkles in the distance. A lake, perhaps? So that lake is something we definitely want to head towards if possible, if it's on our way to Mampang. Let's gather the moss. Warily, you take a small piece of moss. It is juicy, extremely pungent. Some mosses are good to eat and contain much nutrition. Well, let's gently smell it. See how it smells. We put our nose deep into maybe deeply smell it. The scent is like lemons and strong cheese and manure. Yummy. I'm trying to imagine that scent. I don't know. The effect is heady. I'll bet it is. Well, we can gently taste it. I'm thinking about what my character would do, as always, in any RPG. That makes it more interesting to kind of follow through. And that way, a different character might, be more aggressive. Another one might be more wary. This character would, I think, give a gentle taste, and then make a decision from there. You taste the moss with a tentative tongue. Its flavor is not pleasant, but it does not appear to be acrid. Perhaps it is not poisonous? Well, do we eat the moss or stash it away? Well, I'm going to reveal a secret to you. I actually had the unfortunate experience of playing through this section, or I'm going to make different choices this time, but it was pretty cool how it turned out. We ended up meeting I don't want to say, but yeah, so I'm going to, and for some reason, my microphone was not working, and I figured out after some troubleshooting that the USB cord to my blue microphone was faulty. So I replaced the cord, and I'm recording again. So I happen to know that if you stash this in your pack, which is what my character would have done, cautiously stashed in their pack and waited until we went to see the hermit and asked the hermit whether it was safe, causes it to dissipate. So knowing that, I'm going to eat the moss. But just for the record, my character probably wouldn't have done that, but we're going to do that anyway. Oh, it gives us some stamina. Feeling bolder, you can clump the moss. Let's try that again. You put the clump of moss in your mouth and chew. Thick yellow juices run down your chin. Swallowing the clump is hard, but almost as soon as you do, you feel a great warmth spreading up for your stomach. Whatever this moss is, it seems to be beneficial. Well, good, because we needed that stamina. And that's one of the reasons why, when you play this game over again and one choice does a certain thing, you can choose another way. It's just there's often 3 or 4 different choices and different paths, as you'll see. It can turn out in so many different ways. Let's step cautiously over the edge of the cliff. Your heart is in your mouth. What if this staircase is a mere illusion or a trick of light, but it is not? That step holds, and the next step is just as sound. Then one pace at a time, you make your way slowly down to the sunken lands below. All right, halfway down we go. You clamber down the ancient stairs. It is painstaking work, as every step is about the height of your own body. Then about halfway to the ground, you are forced to stop. The steps below have fallen to rubble. Let's look at those stairs. The step on which you stand is in fine condition, perhaps sheltered from the weathering winds by the overhang above. But the next is gone, as are the others after that, stripped from the cliff face as though scoured. You can make out fragments of fallen rock scattered across the plain below. A spell of floating might be useful here. We can cast a spell, we can make a move. Let's definitely not make a move because we would die horribly and win the bet. But, with the gameplay Jenny. But I'm not going to try and kill my character. We're going to try and be smart. But if we still end up dead, then it's a fair bet. Excuse me. So let's cast a spell. So I do know that the spell for this is Fall. F. No, not that. Okay, maybe it's not Fall. Oh, I remember this. Sometimes you have to start at a different place of the spell to get the letters to show up correctly. So it's not just, I don't know about strategy, but there's a bit of trying different things to it. So if there is a strategy to it, tell me, because I don't understand it yet. So this will allow us to float in air, requires 1 stamina. Fall. You cast the spell, lightening your body weight to a mere fraction of normal. Somewhere close by, the wind whistles a clear note, as though blowing over the top of a gigantic bottle. Look across the cliff face. Spy a cave mouth in the raw rock of the cliff, a little way to the east of where you stand. Oh, I'd love to get into that cave and see what's in it, just out of plain old curiosity. If we step off I happen to know what happens if we step off the stairs. We end. We don't end, but we end up at the bottom. I want to see what make a move does. You have no choice but to turn back or else jump. We have found 1 new clue. Okay. Oh no! Now we have... Okay, so now we have to jump. Basically, they're saying jump. But we have the fall spell. Yeah, okay. So we drift gently down to the valley floor. Okay, your weight returns and you settle gradually down to the ground. The foot of the cliff is punctured by little holes, perhaps the warren of hill foxes or whatever equivalent inhabits these barren wastes. So let's look up at the cliff, because how do you get to that cave? Of course, I have a feeling we're not going to be able to. You gaze up the soaring arc of the cliff, barren rock, dusted by what little scrub can cling onto its sides. It is as if some great clawed hand had scooped out the earth. You can just make out the cave mouth you saw earlier, halfway up. It appears to be unreachable. So if we had some sort of rope or something, I guess we could get to it, but oh well. As we look out across the plain, in the near distance, back from the cliff, you can see a stone tower, the only stone structure in the whole barren landscape. Perhaps the hermit lives in that tower. Let's look at it. The tower stands some way across the plain, almost in the foothills of the ridge. It lists to one side, but appears not to have crumbled into ruin. I don't know, though. Do weird hermits, live in almost falling stone towers? I don't know. This then is the plain of Berubak, an endless expanse of dust broken only by the thin outline of an ancient road. No one from Analand has been here. No one even knows what happened to this place. Once it was the Archmage's country, his fields and paddocks, and now it is too barren to even be a place of death. So we're not going to find like a merchant to buy some rations from out here. So might need to get somewhere and somewhere soon. And here's where we have our first opportunity for a choice. The last time I chose follow the cliff, so this time I'm going to follow the old road. And follow the cliff, by the way, ends up to be very interesting. So if you want to try that path, I recommend it. Okay, so we will head this way to follow the cliff and make our way to the old road. You've reached the bottom of the cliff. A few clouds scud across the sky. The great cliff rises up into the sky, unclimbable, ready to topple at any moment. Guess we ought to move out of the way. But we look back at the cliff and crane our necks up, looking back at the cliff towering behind you. Presumably, this is why there are no maps of the backlands. Those who fall in never leave. Oh, halfway down, you spy the cave you spotted. Totally inaccessible, of course. We can check our provisions. At least we have eaten today. All right. So we have a little food in our pack. The plains out here are desolate. We're going to have to move quickly to avoid starvation. We're going to go without food for now. So we close up our pack and move on. We're going to join the old road, looking for the hermit. We leave the shadow of the cliff for the road that cuts across the plain. As the morning moves on, the winds begin to rise. From here, the path is uncertain. Berubak is a wasteland, and there is no path through the great ridge that forms its eastern border. The forest of Snada is uncharted. The Zanzanu peaks and Mampang seem remote. So basically, when we're thinking about our path, we happen to know that the forest of Snada is uncharted. Berubak is a wasteland, and there's no pass through the great ridge that forms its eastern border. So we need to go through to the Zanzu peaks, which are very remote, or the forest of Snada, which is uncharted, but maybe is quicker. Let's hit the forest. The forest of Snada to the east of the ridge is uncharted, and the Claddaback steppes, these words are so interesting, are said to be home only to under-evolved half-humans. No tracks climb the horns of Iklala. Let's, can I zoom out here? See what they're talking about? Okay, so there's the forest of Snada, the Claddaback steppes, the horns of Iklala. I believe that we need to be making our way. I think our final goal is here. I could be wrong about that. Here, but we'll see. Oh, this map. Oh, this map. I also can see that the clouds show words that maybe we haven't discovered, places we haven't discovered yet. But the forest, I think, is where we should head. Because I don't know. That's a good reason. It sounds like as good a place to go as any. No tracks climb the horns of Iklala that lie beyond the forest, and there's no bridge to cross the Great Lake beyond that. There may be no road at all. When the Archmage sent his birdmen to steal the crown of the kings, they flew, but you must walk. One moment, please. I actually took cough medication, and I have some tea that you can hear, the teapot, teacup, to kind of minimize the coughing. It's working, I suppose, somewhat, but not completely gone. For a moment, you wonder why you could not have simply ridden an invisible gold crest eagle all the way to the Archmage's stronghold. You know, I'd like to know that myself. But of course, should he discover your mission, you would be dead in mere moments of entering the fortress. So the Archmage is our enemy, and he is the one who's in control of the Seven Serpents, who are either searching for us or impeding us. Kind of like the horses in Lord of the Rings. The path beckons. There is no alternative. The future of the old world depends on you somehow finding your way across this lonely dust bowl. Well, the future of the old world is kind of in trouble. If they're depending on us, yeah. So, we could go north. We could go to the blasted tree. We could go along the road. We could go strike out across the plains. I'm not sure why we would go visit a blasted tree. So let's head along the road. There was also, and I should have scrolled out, but it looks like there was a place right here that we could have chosen too, which I didn't notice. You follow the old road. The sun has reached its highest point now. Out of the shade, the air is baking hot. The road snakes across the dust bowl. In the near distance, you make out something through the haze, not a tower, but a spire of rock. It seems to flicker strangely. From behind you, a voice says, "Excuse me." We could draw a sword or turn around, but I feel like my character would turn around ready to wield her tongue as a sword to talk her way out of a difficult situation. And plus, whoever it is, if they're going to attack us, would have attacked us as opposed to just saying, "Excuse me." So let's turn around. Hopefully it's a merchant. Whoa. You turn around and find the road deserted. There is no one in sight in any direction. Whoa. We could shake this off or call out. I feel like she would look warily around, but calling out would call attention to herself. I mean, obviously she's already got some unwanted attention. No, she's a talker. I think she would say, "Where are you?" There is no reply. The cold wind whistles around you. The plains suddenly feel far emptier than a moment before. We continue along the ghost road. Oh, the ghost road. Okay, so in this direction is a marked cliff. Oh, and you can see, it's hard to see. I don't know if you can tell, but that is definitely 3D. Oh, good job, Inkle. Really well done. I love that 3D aspect. We can head off the road. We can go along the road. It's very hot. A dead tree is not going to give us any shade. I think we should make for this cave. Let's head east. Okay, so the road curves gently as you follow it. Heat beats down from an empty sky. We can look amongst the rocks. What the heck? As you walk, you cast your eyes over the rocks on either side of your path. Good pebbles can be a useful ingredient in spellcasting, but they have to be the right shape and size. Most here are too angular, either too small or too large. But there may be one or two. Finally, we see a suitable stone. The best pebbles are formed by the action of the sea and not by the cascades, rain, or scouring wind, but there may be one or two here which are suitable, buried among the rest. It is wedged beneath a larger rock. The resting boulder seems to teeter a moment. Come on, give it a good tug. We need that stone. You pull again and the pebble comes free. The boulder above rocking and then falling still. You breathe a quiet sigh of relief. That gives us a pebble for spellcasting, and we'll see if that opens up a spell for us. Pocketing the pebble, you walk on, being careful to keep your footing on the uneven ground. The road forks here with the main path snaking up the mountainside to the east. Rocks have tumbled down the slope and all but covered the road. We can look east, look north, or walk on. Well, we'll look east first. You cast your gaze east towards the towering Badubak Ridge. The main peak is lost in haze, and at the end of the long, winding road that climbs the slope. Let's look north. Looking north, The road winds along the rocky edges of the foothills. A particularly impressive stone stupa stands out a little way along. Stones shift and move underfoot as you walk. I don't know what a stupa is, but that's why we read. We learn new things, increases your vocabulary. Let's continue. So that gives us a choice now where we can go along the mountain path or we can go north. I want to head north. So we move our game piece north, our heroine, I should say. The ground underfoot turns to rocks and scree. The sun is beginning to lower. The air begins to cool. You can pause to rest in the shadow of a large rock spire that sticks out from the dirt like a claw through a cloth. Let's look at the rock. The rock is a single shattered spire. Ah, fire pit. We may have found our hermit. The rock is a single shattered spire, perhaps once part of the mountain range to the east, or perhaps driven up through the ground by some geological quirk. At the base of the rock is the mouth of a cave, no doubt filled with spiders and scorpions and blood-sucking bats. The remains of an ancient fire pit are still visible to one side. Oh, an ancient fire pit. Okay. The old fire pit is just a ring of blackened stones, has collected a pool of sand from the stinging wind. Let's gather up the sand just because it allows us to, and so I want to see what it does. It will be useful for magic. Okay. We look inside the having a hard time pronouncing words. Look inside the cave. You approach the cave with trepidation. The cave appears to go back some distance into pitch blackness. Someone seems to have scratched a message into the rock inside the cave. It is only just legible and must be ancient. Oh goodness, yes. Stranger, I am waiting. Very long ago. Summon you. Call my names to the skies, and I will... Some of it is, the name here is somewhat, difficult to read. Well, we're not going to call out a name yet. Let's look around the plain first. All around, dusty plains stretch north and west. There is no clue as to who might have written the message. To the east, the mountains are gleaming in the afternoon sun. We could try calling out a name. Maybe quietly. Just to see. Let's say our heroine is very curious. Shadrach is, I think, the name of the hermit. What name should we call? Let's call Shadrach. Excuse me, because this is most likely to be the name. Shadrach! Oh, I cry the name across the plains. Yeah, great. You can see that I'm going back and forth between you, we, I, and I'll probably continue doing that just because that's the way it flows. You cry the name across the plains, and the echo of it seems to set off a distant avalanche. Oh, great. You stagger to your knees. The very earth is moving, or as though it was splitting or merging back together. Only to find that grass is growing between your fingers? Is it a mirage? What in the... Whoa! Cool! Oh, cool. That's neat. Let's just take a... I have to take a look. Wow. That's neat. So not only did Mike Schley, the cartographer, design this map, he did a version in this way, dark and barren, but it was a spell of some sort. Oh, that means that tree is a real tree then. Good. But he also did a version with green too. I wonder what other things are hidden in this wonderful map. Okay, let's find out. You pick yourself unsteadily to your feet, feeling sick and unwell. Everything around you is the same, but everything is different. The rock has 2 spires, for one thing. The cave seems smaller and darker, and the fire pit outside, a fire is burning. From inside, you hear the gentle sound of singing. We listen to it. The singer is a man with a voice like gravel moving over ice. That sounds beautiful. We got another bit of stamina, too, from somewhere. Maybe when this spell was cast. He sings in a language you do not recognize, but its tune feels at once arresting and ancient, and the melody seems to soothe your soul. So this whole barrenness was a visual magic trick of some sort, possibly to keep people away for some reason. Very curious. We could approach the fire, we could slip away. We're definitely going to approach the fire because there's a possibility of this being the man we seek. We can call out for Shadrach, draw our sword, and enter or slip away quietly. What shall we do? Well, we're going to pick that decision in the next episode. I think we'll probably choose to call for Shadrach. But, maybe, that is, we assume he is Shadrach. But maybe not. So we have the sound of little fire. If you don't like the sound effect if you're playing the game, which I don't see why you wouldn't, but if you didn't, you can turn it off here, like that. But we'll leave the episode here with the sound of a crackling fire as our character gets to discover who is inside the lonely cave. In the next episode of Steve Jackson's Sorcery. I want to thank you for joining me for this episode, though. If you enjoyed what you saw, please hit the thumbs up button below. It always helps me and the channel. Thank you. And if you loved it, join the party and subscribe. I'll see you back here for the next episode of Steve Jackson's Sorcery, where we continue to build our own novel. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And also make sure to head over and visit Gameplay Jenny on her channel and see how she plays and how long it takes her hero or heroine to die horribly. We'll see, because you can die in this game. You can, have it end basically in a way you don't want. So that's one of the fun things about it. Anyway, as always, thank you so much for watching.